The Brew House was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewHouse.com. Hi, everyone, and welcome into the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. Nice to have you with us. I'm Bill Pucko, and happy to be joined by Dan Moriarty, who rejoins us on the panel.
Happy to be here.
All right, along with Mike Catalana and Pat Duffy, co-hosting.
Hey.
Guys, hey, so look, I thought Tony Romo came out with his whole dissertation about, how Dak Prescott was going to be the quarterback and he deserves it and all the rest of that stuff. But he said some, amazing things. This is almost like bulletin board material for, high school coaches. What do you think about Romo's presentation? It seemed to come out of nowhere.
You could spend the whole show breaking down every single thing. What was it, 6 minutes, 30 seconds, something like that from Tony Romo?
A 6.5 minute prepared statement.
Yeah. And typically I don't love prepared statements. In that situation, I'd like to see the press get a chance to ask some questions. But in this spot, I get it. I mean, he gets to control his message. He got a whole bunch of stuff in there for people to go and feed on for a while. And at the end of the day, he said, Dak Prescott's our starting quarterback. He's earned that. And that was my favorite part of the whole thing. Talking about earning the job, keeping the job. And he realizes at this point, this is the right thing to do. Step away. Let the statement speak for itself. I think it was a perfect spot for Romo.
And I thought that was the least impactful thing he said. All the rest of it just blew my mind.
Well, talking about him wanting to play, and I think all of that is true. Look, I don't like the Cowboys. I've never liked them. But I respect Romo as a competitor and a guy who kept fighting, came from nowhere, undrafted guy. He's that kind of player. Replaced Drew Bledsoe in not quite similar circumstances because Bledsoe was failing and then they put him in there, but he had to try to prove himself. But he really, and I loved what he said because I do believe it was heartfelt. The other part of it is he didn't have to say all of it, but what he said, he really doesn't have a choice. And it is, in another way, while it was heartfelt and I think he did a nice job, he did the smart thing too. Because now, if you're Tony Romo, now when you do play, and I think there might be a possibility, there's always a chance of an injury, you never know what's going to happen, he comes in a different way. If he was bucking to get back in there to play, he could only fail. At the moment, could only fail because everything has gone so well for Dak Prescott. So I think it was both heartfelt and a smart play on his part. No, I really didn't feel like it was contrived. I think it's to the point where maybe he's feeling this way. You see slight little things from Dak that maybe, and then you see the way the guy plays, especially at the end of the game, and you go, what am I going to say at this moment? He's got to play.
But I think the only way this works is exactly what you just brought up. He's a guy from Eastern Michigan University that nobody had ever heard of that replaces a potential Hall of Famer in Drew Bledsoe, right? He's been Dak Prescott before. He knows how Dak Prescott feels. So you have to come out and you have to make these statements. The other thing, the cynical part of me coming out, Tony Romo knows that there will be a career for him past football, and by doing this, every mother in America fell in love with Tony Romo. So he helped his brand yesterday.
Now, while I just compared it to Bledsoe and you said the same thing, it's really a better comparison to say Bledsoe and Brady.
Yes.
And we know that because it was an injury in a sense that Bledsoe was not expected. So Romo got hurt in the preseason. Dak took over. Bledsoe got hurt in week 2. Brady took over. Bledsoe was fighting it the whole way. Bledsoe actually got a chance to play in the AFC Championship game. There was debate before the Super Bowl who would start, and then it became, obviously, Brady's.
Well, Romo may get another chance here, too. There's a lot of season left to play. This is a Cowboys team that's, you would imagine, is going to make the postseason with the way they're playing right now. So there's plenty of opportunities to play, especially when we look at the NFL landscape, how many quarterbacks have been injured this season. Now, Dak is behind one of the best offensive lines, if not the best in football, but there's always that chance that he may be thrown out there. And the comparison, Bledsoe to Brady at that point was only asked to be a game manager, a lot like Dak at this point, too. Run the football, don't make mistakes. Bledsoe probably had more talent at that point, could make more big plays, but Brady was the better guy for that team, kind of the way Prescott's been this season.
You know, I wrote one thing down of all of it. My favorite quote is that everyone wants to be the reason that you're winning, but there are special moments that come from a shared commitment, and that's what you remember.
And that is true. The other part that he talked about, wanting to play, I will laugh sometimes when I'll hear fans say, hey, the guy getting paid to sit there and watch. There are a few guys in the NFL that are now to that point where you're going, I'll take the check.
Mario Williams. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, you take the check and not play, though. Maybe like Mark Sanchez now is at the point where he's in the Cowboys saying, okay, I'm fine where I am. Tony Romo wants to play. I mean, he really does want. He's made a ton of money. It's not about money at this point. He absolutely wants to be out there, and it has to be killing him to see a team that could go to the Super Bowl, and he's on the bench.
Yeah, no, that was great. This is the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. We're going to talk the Bills and the NFL next. The Press Box, brought to you in part by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP, C-O-M-P, today. The Buffalo Bills Quote of the Week was brought to you by the Rochester Geico Office. Give the Rochester Geico team a chance to see how much you could save on all your insurance needs. Call or stop by the office on West Henrietta Road, open Monday through Saturday. Our Geico Rochester Quote of the Week following the bye week.
I don't buy it. I think Rex likes making friends. I think he's a football coach, and the other part about mistakes, I think it comes down to some of the detail stuff. I think that's the opposite of Rex. I think Rex is a guy who's not detail-oriented enough, and too many mistakes have been able to go on, and I do think he likes to be liked. It can work to a point. You're disagreeing over there, aren't you?
I think at this point he doesn't. I think it's one of these things where when things are going well, I like to be liked. But I also think he understands that if he loses 4 straight games here, he's legitimately at risk of losing his job. So right. Forget the friends, man. I got to win ball games.
The guy's dropping Cookie Gilchrist lines driving around in a Buffalo Bills mobile as soon as he becomes the Bills head coach. He's all about people loving him.
This portion of the Rochester Press Box presented by Connors and Ferris. We're going to pick the game. This is a huge game. I mean, you stay relevant if you win. You don't if you lose it. The Bills are 3-point dogs at Cincinnati.
Well, and it's a perfect team you need to play, too, because if you get the win, not only are you back to 500, if I'm not mistaken, but you're beating an AFC team, which you so desperately need to do. I'm a little bit nervous, and I don't know why the Bengals have been a bugaboo for the Bills the last couple of years, but it seems to me every time we go into a Bengals game, like last year with EJ at quarterback, that we need to have, we can't pull it out. All of that being said, you know where my heart is. I think the Bills win this game. Straight up. And I think everything that's happened, the bye week on their side, Cincinnati coming off a Monday nighter, they win by 2 possessions.
Interesting. Both teams need it, Danny.
Well, the last 16 years they've had, hasn't every team been a bugaboo for the Bills? It's been one of those situations where, but like you said, AFC team, that is a big deal at this point. They just need wins, though. At this point in the season, they need W's, especially when you're looking at the AFC West and where some of these wild card teams are currently at. When you look at the last time Buffalo had an extended break after the Jets game, down and out, 0-2 at that point in the season, everybody dumping on them thinking the season's over. They've had the full week of rest. They needed it at this point. Not only do they need to find a new center, but they needed to get some guys healthy. And hopefully the extended break, this team gets a chance to get rejuvenated for the second half of the season, because with the way the schedule sets up, if they can get on a roll the way that they showed earlier in the year, winning those 4 straight, there's at least still a chance. But it's not much more than a chance. I'm going with the Bills.
Sounds like you're picking them, Mike.
I liked them more in the loss to Seattle than in any other game they've played this year. I liked the way they played on the road. I think they played tough, and I was most impressed with Tyrod in an environment that will be more difficult than any other place they're going to play the rest of the year. And he was tough. They moved the ball. McCoy looked great. They're going to miss Eric Wood a ton in the middle. That's what I worry about. But I do think, and I was picking on Rex a little bit, that he's trying to light a fire under a couple of guys this week. I like them a lot in this game. I think they're a better team than Cincinnati. I think Andy Dalton looks like a statue. I think they will get after him this week, and I think the Bills win the game. I think they win. You said 2 possessions?
Yes.
I'm kind of with you on that. I think they're ahead late, and they get a ceiling touchdown. I think they win like 27-17.
I think there's more than meets the eye here for Cincinnati. I like their roster, and they need it as much as Buffalo, so I'll take the Bengals. Pick another game.
Tampa Bay is the most up-and-down team in the NFL. Sometimes they look unbeatable. Sometimes they look unwinnable. They play Kansas City. Kansas City in that AFC West, they're all due for a letdown. Buccaneers covering and winning straight up against the Chiefs.
I'm going with the Miami Dolphins. They're making the West Coast trip out to Los Angeles to play the Rams. Rams are breaking in their rookie quarterback, Jared Goff. And look, Miami's red hot. The Rams have been one of those teams, just like they've been the last few seasons. Defense is solid. They don't get much offensively. Their offensive line is horrible. I think the Dolphins are able to go West Coast this week and get a win against the Rams.
There's a surprising team. Miami's in the playoff hunt.
Speaking of surprising teams, I'm going to take one, and it's surprising they've been so bad. I'm taking Green Bay at Washington getting points in this game. At some point, he's going to win a game by himself. And I think it may be this week. A high-scoring game, Sunday Night Football. I think Washington's actually a better team, but Green Bay is so desperate. I think Green Bay wins the game.
Yeah, it's a good pick because teams under siege also seem to do well, and Green Bay's
back.
under everybody's attack.
Yep.
I've been a Detroit Lions guy. Jacksonville's dysfunctional. It's at Detroit. Detroit's giving 6.5. I'll play the Lions. Here's a look at the standings for our NFL Picks contest, brought to you by Connors and Ferris. With everyone splitting their 2 games last week, I will not be caught. The winner of the contest will have a donation made in his name to Hunter's Hope. This week, Greg Connors selecting for the Connors and Ferris team. We're now 7-13. Greg likes the Bills to win and is picking the Cowboys over the Ravens. This portion of the Rochester Press Box brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Like it or not, when we return. The Press Box Trivia Question brought to you by Sleep City. Queen adjustable bed with memory foam mattress, now $977. Save over $500. Shop Rochester's only locally owned mattress store. No pressure, no hassle sales experience. Here's a look at the Press Box Trivia answer brought to you by Sleep City. Queen adjustable bed with memory foam mattress. Now $977. You save over $500. Shop Rochester's only locally owned mattress store. No pressure, no hassle sales experience. See New York in a whole new way. Amtrak is offering a 15% discount for all travel inside New York State and to Montreal. Visit Amtrak.com for the See New York discount. Safe, comfortable, affordable, and easy. Amtrak. Enjoy the journey. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This portion brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. Like it or not, Jared Goff returning to the Rams, who you're picking against this week.
You mean the bust? Everybody's already calling this guy a bust, and it's, halfway through the season? Do we not remember how, Carson Palmer sat out an entire year? Donovan McNabb came in partway through a season. Eli Manning was behind Kurt Warner, and this wasn't Arizona Cardinals or Rams Kurt Warner. This was Giants. I fumble every time I drop back Kurt Warner. Sometimes it takes guys. It's not a bad thing if it takes a little while to throw a guy out there. He wasn't ready to play. They admitted that when they drafted him. The guy had never taken a snap under center, so why throw him into the fire, especially behind that offensive line? I'm actually surprised Jeff Fisher caved at this point. Why not stick to your original plan and not play him? Although, at this point, I guess you do have some weapons on the outside. If you can find a way to try and protect him. My worry now, though, behind that offensive line is throwing him to the fire and having him get lost and lose his confidence.
Let me explain something to you. Jeff Fisher is a genius.
At busting quarterbacks?
No.
Oh, sorry.
At holding on to his job. This is what he did. He waits, he waits, he waits. He knows the guy's maybe not ready. Now he throws him out there. You will see Goff struggle at times, so Fisher can say, I was right, he wasn't ready. Then he'll show some flashes of being good, and then Fisher will say, now we have the kid in the system, now we're ready to go for next year. If Fisher would have thrown him out week 1 and the kid would have struggled, by midway through or later in the year, people would have been talking in LA about getting rid of Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher is great at protecting Jeff Fisher. Mediocre at best head coach in the NFL who has somehow survived. He played this exactly the way he wanted to. You'll get enough of Jared Goff to show that he's okay, but needs a lot of work, and Fisher will buy another year.
Goff's worst enemy is your guy, Carson Wentz.
Well, and Wentz could have been the exact same guy because they were expecting to play Bradford and sit Carson Wentz. And you could have said, well, North Dakota State, and that's why he's not playing. But you want to see him. And the difference, McNabb actually got in games early in the year. They would throw him in for a few series or whatever. Doug Peterson, their current head coach, was the quarterback, and everybody knew he'd be replaced. Now, Jeff Fisher is all about Jeff Fisher figuring it out, and he's played this perfectly.
Must be related to Roger Goodell, I get the feeling.
He's another one.
Like it or not, college football rankings and what they've done so far.
What rankings? They don't matter. The only rankings that matter are the ones that come out right before the 4-game playoff. And like my favorite one is this week. The ones from last week. Michigan loses on the road and doesn't go anywhere. Right, to an unranked team. They lose to an unranked team and stand pat where they are. How is that possible in a system that's supposed to be rewarding the best teams in the nation? We know what we're trying to do. We're trying to get an Ohio State, Michigan, which, by the way, that's impossible, right? Because they're going to play in the Big Ten championship game anyway. You want those two in the mix the whole time, and they're going to try and figure out a way to jam Louisville back in to play Alabama. That's their only goal, and it's obvious, right? I'm not the only one that's seeing this thing.
So it's fixed.
I think so, yeah. Not fixed, but there are interests pulling things a certain way, just like there always have.
Well, I think they would love to have Harbaugh in the playoff, right? I mean, he's a draw. If you have Michigan in there, he's a draw.
They're going to get beat by the Bucks, though, right? Buckeyes are going to get them.
Yeah, we could still have Wisconsin and Penn State playing for the Big Ten championship.
Yeah,
That's
the
really
game everybody's been
They
waiting for.
love that they're creating conversation on Tuesdays every week.
Yeah.
Conversation that bleeds into Wednesday, that bleeds into the rest of the week when they didn't have that before. It was always college game day gearing up for that Saturday, whereas
This portion of the Rochester Press Box brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. Unfinished Business is next. The Press Box Stat of the Week brought to you by Fiondoc and Fiondoc. Remember, if you've made the wrong choice, it's time to make the right choice. Fiondoc and Fiondoc, New York's DWI leader for over 35 years. Visit nydwi.com. Celebrate the holidays with delicious Dunkin' coffee. Stop by Dunkin' Donuts for 2 K-Cup boxes for $15.99 or 3 pounds of packaged coffee for just $19.99. America runs on Dunkin'. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This portion, Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Pat.
I'm checking out. You know what a hockey fan I am. And somehow, despite all the injuries, the Sabres are keeping their heads above water a little bit these last couple months, waiting for Jack Eichel to get back. And there was another guy that we're talking about. We need him back to play. Evander Kane. You can take me off the Evander Kane bandwagon that I've been on since he came over from Winnipeg. He's not worth the headache anymore, right? He's supposed to be the superstar player that didn't have his talents realized where he was before. And it's becoming painfully apparent that he's not that superstar player. Not only is he not that superstar player, he's selfish on and off the ice, and he keeps getting in trouble over and over and over again. And I hate to be this hard guy, because you know how much I love my Sabres. I love my Sabres, but there is no redeeming value in Evander Kane. And the reason he's still on this roster is there's no trade value for Evander Kane either. I'm at the point now where I don't care what it costs. Just get him off the roster. I don't want to deal with him anymore. And I have a hard time cheering for a guy who has an attitude like that. And any kid, any parent that has a kid that plays youth hockey or things like that should not let their kid be rooting for a guy like that either, on and off the ice issues.
So what do you want to do? To release him?
Mikey, you're a hockey fan. You're a Sabres guy. What's he worth to you at this point?
He's not worth anything in a trade because this would be the second place, and he's still making a lot of money. So I think you're in a little bit of trouble, and I think they're stuck with him right now. Sorry.
free agency has saved the Syracuse basketball season. Yeah. College hoops, free agency. Graduate transfers, they got John Gillen, Andrew White. Were able to fill in some of those gaps that they lost when guys left last year. They lost 2 fifth-year guys in Michael Benege and Trevor Cooney, but they also lost a freshman they didn't expect to lose, and Malachi Richardson. So what do? They bring in 6 new guys. Some of those guys are freshmen. One of them is Pascal Chukwu, a guy that they got from Providence. But the key really, 2 veteran guys that they got, John Gillen and Andrew White, that they got this offseason. Fifth-year guys from other schools are able to come in, play right away. It's when you look at this Syracuse basketball team, this is going to be as much fun as Jim Boeheim's had to coach in a while, because as soon as somebody screws up, he can pull that guy out of the game, and he's got a replacement for him. He's already been doing a lot of teaching early on this season in their first few games. With the depth this team has, with the shooting this team has, with the length and the skill, Syracuse is in for one hell of a season.
Nice. They also had some early season games that are worth watching, too, with the Big Ten Challenge coming up.
Phil Jackson opened his mouth this week and he was talking about LeBron James. Now, why he said it in the first place, I have no idea. He's got enough to worry about messing up the Knicks for the rest of his time in New York. But he referred to LeBron's group around him as his posse. And LeBron took it, I think, one step farther. I think LeBron made it more of a racial issue than I think it was. There may have been a tinge of that. There may have been part of that out of Phil Jackson. I've never heard anything like that out of him. But what it really came out to me is a condescending old man. And as one of the old men on the panel, I can say as Phil's older too. You're too good. You've been too good. You have too much of a legacy in the NBA. But you're always condescending. It worked when you were a champ. It worked when you had LeBron and Shaq and Kobe and you were winning. You could get away with it. Now you just seem like a sad guy picking on the guy in the NBA and about the group of players behind him. I don't know if it was racial, but I know it was dumb, and it will hurt Phil Jackson now and going forward as long as he's with the Knicks.
All righty. This portion of the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House and brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Danny, nice to have you back.
Good to be back.
Guys,
Thanks.
good job. What? And thank you for watching the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House, and we'll see you again next week.